해관노대 관노대 관노대 해관노대 관노대 해관노대 해관노대.
We discovered the site during surveys of the Big Lake region during 1986 and found it to be an extremely large site extending about 100 yards along the shoreline of the Narrows and about 40 yards inland up a low rise behind the shoreline. We found abundant cultural material from 5,000 to 6,000 years ago in all of the test pits we dug along the shoreline and back up the hill. And at that point during the survey, we knew we had a very large, very important site.
Soon. Yeah. We still have another group, you know. What did I get?
We decided to run this project as a field school, jointly sponsored by the University of Maine at Machias and by the Indian Township tribal government. Most of our students are Passamaquoddy college students or high school students. We have 8 students, and they've spent the last couple of weeks learning how to properly excavate an archaeological site.
The field school came as a result of the desire for true tribal involvement on a day-to-day level during the entire archaeological dig. Some of us took the idea of having young people come and work on this site and said this is probably the most profound way to impact them. We wanted to do more than just have native bodies present during the digging. We wanted to set up a situation where they, the youth, could reach inside themselves to see what meaning they could extract from all of this. It was the Preservations Committee's philosophy that if you didn't do that, these would just be a bunch of rocks and a bunch of things that we're digging up from the past.
He's not
riding in my boat.
We found the site 4 years ago and came back 2 years ago to do some initial testing on it. And it was immediately apparent that this was one of the most important sites in New England. It's from a culture that archaeologists call Virgins, and the people of the Virgins culture lived on this site between 5,000 and 6,000 years ago. It's not a very well-known culture. It's a kind of key culture in the later development of native cultures in the region. And the site was also being eroded rather rapidly. So we decided that this was a very high priority site and tried to put a project together that would salvage some information that was in danger of being lost to erosion. I'm quite excited about this site and about the project as a whole because not only for archaeological reasons, not only because it's an important site, but because we've put together a project involving a number of different institutions, including the University of Maine at Machias, and including significantly the Passamaquoddy themselves, whose cultural heritage, in fact, this of course is. And I think it's a good model, I hope, for future projects. In the field school, the students are learning a number of things. First of all, the field school is basically excavation of an archaeological site. And they're learning how to dig up an archaeological site properly, recording where things occur, making maps of the distribution of say, spear points, other kinds of tools within their excavation units. And what we can do at the end is put all these maps together and get an idea of the prehistoric activities over a fairly broad area that we've excavated. For instance, we get pits that may have been garbage pits, may have been fire pits, that we can trace through a number of squares. We can excavate what they threw into a particular pit and get an idea maybe of food bone or of the season of the year it was made. We have what is possibly a ring of rocks around a tent that we're in the process of excavating, and if we can get the whole thing, we can tell how big the tent was, for instance, and what kind of activities perhaps went on inside that are reflected by what people left behind.
I don't blame you. Summer vacation. We found a big flake.
I remember on one particular day we were doing a survey work, and I kind of got into the actual screening process with two of the Passamaquoddy students. And as we were sifting, which is a major activity, sifting out for artifacts, first of all, we were kind of hoping we would find things. And that can be sometimes happen very fast, and sometimes it can be very slow, and you have to be real patient. But on this one particular day, we were screening, and we got a hold of the screen. Somebody put some dirt in it, and we just started shifting, and the whole rhythm of what it was all about just kind of engulfed all of us. And so we just started sifting in the beat of a drum beat. And after a while, when we got into that, we started, singing, because the natural sound of the sifting sounded like the drum beat. And the drum is very central to all of our lives. The drum beat is like the heartbeat of Earth, of the Mother Earth.
Well, when I first got here, we didn't know anything about what I would be doing, or, didn't know what would be going on here. And when we started, it's like we screened our own stuff, and we had to figure out what were flakes and bones. And I hadn't a clue at what to look for. But once I got started, it was easy, and it's been, I can look at stones and tell if they're flakes and pick up bones, and I've been finding a lot of bones this morning.
There's a lot of mud, but it gets exciting to find things. When you find an artifact, that's the best part. Makes it all worth it.
Each time that, as the team was digging, that something significant was about to happen, there was be a call out to the camp, if you will. And everybody else would stop what they're doing while this particular thing of significance was unearthed or excavated. And the questions of what was the person doing who last held it, what were they making, what were they feeling, were they discouraged? Because in some cases the tool might have broken and they had to reshape and make another one. It wasn't a matter of reaching in the toolbox. That the ceremony of making the tool was as important and probably more consuming than the tasks that you needed it for. And it was this awareness, this insight that was tapped, that was brought to the surface. And I think part of the excitement was that we could live that moment all over again, each time.
When you find something, you all of a sudden feel that I've become attuned to the past, like I've all of a sudden stepped back, in this case, 6,000 years. And that somebody 6,000 years ago made this, held this, used this, and all of a sudden I've found it.
I think it was really fascinating. Every time I find something, it's fascinating. I wonder, who made it, how they made it, and things like that.
Archaeologists think of themselves, at least, as anthropologists. We study culture. We don't just study arrowheads and tent rings and little pieces of burnt bone. What we're really trying to understand is how culture changes through time, how culture works. And we choose, those of us who are archaeologists, to look at past cultures.
We've never had the opportunity to really get into a project where you could take things of value to you, your native values, the things that you grew up with, the things that you heard, and the things that you heard were most likely several generations back. And those things evolve as everything does. It was always seemed to be a choice between, going into an exact science, let's say archaeology, and never taking into full consideration that which is within you already. And so one of the hidden agendas of this project was to try to tap that as much as possible. What it does for self-esteem is unmeasurable. You can see it in people. You can see it affecting natives as well as non-natives. At least we did during the course of this project. I think the proper word for it is honoring thyself.
Well, it generates interest in the Indian culture by actually going and seeing the way people lived and seeing how they actually came about to different spots, how they settled where they settled, and it really gives you a feel for what they did.
It's great, I mean, you meet all different kinds of people. I mean, everybody I've met here I've never seen before, but I mean, right now it's just like a big family. We all eat together, and we stay at Greenland Point, in the camp, and we all eat together there, and we see each other, I mean, some people think, if you see somebody day and night, you kind of feel a little crowded, but it's not this way. It's a real family feeling, actually, and it's really a closeness that develops, between everybody, and I'm very, very glad I showed up. I mean, even just for that reason, but I mean, everything else is a bonus to me.
I've been picking up lots of Passamaquoddy while I'm here, and I really like that. I love the stories that Wayne and other people have been teaching me.
We eat like a family. It's all around the dinner table. It's kind of fun. In the morning, everybody's just waking up. The whole group's together, so it's kind of neat to have everyone together through the whole thing.
I think I made some pretty permanent friends here. Yeah.
I have all the flakes for it. What? I like that one.
I think that once everything was done, the memories of discovering or the memories of sharing will last a lifetime.
I want a big quartz wall.
It's not in the Virgins, that's correct.
It's in the ceramic?
Well, it's questionable.
We continue to survive. We continue to want to define ourselves. I hope this project means that to all of the people involved, native or non-native. Because I think that that's where it's at.
Nollas Walter Multibun, en ik is in Iliag, de lokadine. Ktiwuli one, knik bij de hamleben, de gange jijitonen, eli mejdeo de oltie, noli namik bij de hadmenen, eli juigakim soltie, dan wada bek soltie, dan gan milan en judni jango.